All right, we're good to go.
I brought the wrong folder.
Do you
Yeah,
want
the agenda.
get the big front one?
I must want to check his email now. Right. You don't check his email.
Well, let's call the meeting to order. It is 10:06. We have a quorum. Charlie, can I borrow your agenda for a second? Since I brought it along with me. There you go. First thing on the agenda is report of the executive director.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everybody being online. We have a big presence online today, posted in person. What I'll do is I'll try to share my screen as much as I can. The first item I want to talk about is a potential move to ED Advance, the ED Advance facility in Litchfield. And let me just pull up, I have a cost comparison between ED Advance proposal and the current Goshen location expenditures on the current fiscal year to date. Let me just pull this thing out. Oh. Screen. Share. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that, which I'm pretty sure you should be able to. Please let me know in the chat if you're having an issue. All right, so ED Advance, the current fiscal year expenditures at Goshen, we have basically office and storage space, 3 private offices in total. I guess technically 4 if you count the one that says no natural light that's on the other side of the hallway. That's about 1,640 square feet at a price of about $11.05 per square foot at this point. We're in the 8th year of the lease. That leads to also the conference room is 640 square feet that we're sitting in right now. We obviously identified that's not necessarily the suits all of our needs for conference space moving forward with the different meetings that we do have here, including this meeting. But when you combine all of that space together, we're paying an annual lease amount of $25,188 in our 8th year, as I mentioned. We also summarize some of our actual costs in this fiscal year, the actual projection out to the end of this fiscal year, and electric propane should be close to $6,000. Technology, which includes our internet and our IT services that we contract with ED Advance for, roughly should come out to about $5,000 at year end. Custodial is about a little over $2,000, and that's literally just to kind of empty the garbage, maybe vacuum. There's not a lot that goes on with that. But the total cost there is about $13,000 for our current location. So a total of about $38,000 or so that we're paying out in overhead costs for this location here. So the ED Advance proposal has office and storage space that we're working on right now to get the floor plan finalized, and the fit out cost associated with that, which I don't expect to be very high comparatively to what we had proposed here back in two years ago. But it would result in about 6 private office spaces with some natural light exposure. Proposal of $10 per square foot. And the conference space, we have access to multiple conference spaces in ED Advance. There's some large conference space. There's some large conference space that can be partitioned off. There is smaller conference space up in the front of the building. There's just a lot of options that we have available to us. And it's just literally how it would be just getting ourselves on the schedule, which is not a problem. They've offered basically a discounted half rate for our share of conference space usage. So the total amount of cost for the actual use of space at ED Advance to be a little less than what we're paying now at $24,000 or so. Where we really see some savings is with the other costs associated with all the utilities, technology, which include IT support, unlimited IT support with our current vendor over there, literally walk down the hallway for anything that we need at a flat rate. And then, of course, custodial, which includes interior and exterior plowing and everything that's included with property maintenance. So those shares that they're offering are literally come out to about 7,000, which is almost half of what we pay now. So that leads us to essentially a reduction, about a 20% reduction in cost than where we are right now. And we're going to end up in a position where we have a lot of economies of scale and opportunities to collaborate and cost share. There's no parking restrictions. We would have signage along the roadway, including signage directing us to the rear of the building, which would have direct access to our area that we would be using. There's restrooms, kitchenette, all that access, obviously part of the package. There is catering possibilities. We wanted to cater on site. They have the facility and the means to do so, or we can obviously provide off-site if we need, you know, for example, lunches here. We're working on a draft contract, which I had shared with the executive committee and an executive committee this morning at 9 a.m. We didn't have a quorum, so we weren't able to take in particular actions on anything, but that draft contract is in development as we speak, and I expect it to be a 5-5-5 structure, which is the same as we have now, with an escalator of around 3% per year, which is pretty typical. And then one of the other main differences between this location and that is that there's a very high security presence at ED Advance. Obviously, it's a key card secure building, and that's quite important for us, particularly when we compare it with this location. You know, we have had some instances of suspicious activity here that's at least raised the concern levels of some of the folks that may be here sometimes by themselves. So, you know, it's not exactly the most secure feeling position that we're in. And frankly, you know, we may not be local government, but we are a government entity by state statute. And, you know, that can pose a problem sometimes if you have the wrong actor. So it's just a very much more secure building, and that's pretty, it's a desirable trait. So that's kind of where we're at. That's what I just showed you was the operational cost differences. Those are really, really hard numbers. I would definitely rely on these numbers as it gets worked through the contract. What I don't have for you is the actual fit out cost. I was hoping to have that. I was told to have, I would have that by the end of Tuesday, end of business, but I haven't received it yet. So I don't have a floor plan specifically, you know, breaking out our space within the existing areas that they have. It wouldn't be anything, you know, flashy anyway. But the more important thing is I don't have the number for the fit out cost for that space, but I'm fairly certain it's going to be nowhere near the fit out cost it would be for fitting out unfinished space at this location or any of the other locations we've looked at before. So a number, I mean, I can't really venture a guess at this point in time, but you know, our number here for the original plan, which was just creating a bigger office or conference space in the unfinished space and converting this area we're sitting in into 3 offices, was about originally was about 130,000, which then it increased to 150 and at least 150,000 last year. So I don't think we're anywhere near that number with this ED Advance option. So that's really the nutshell and over the 10,000 foot overview. I mean, I'll turn it back to the chair and answer any questions. Obviously, we've been doing this for so long that we'd like to move forward and settle down. Anecdotally, I still have not unpacked boxes from when I got here almost 2 years ago. So with that, I'll turn it over to Henry.
Well, one of the things that we're can everybody hear us? Is everybody A-okay on that? I think that what we're looking for here is we can await and delay execution of everything if you want until we have final numbers. But I would like to have an authorization, if possible, to allow him go up to a certain cost on the breakout thing and execute a contract. I think that the executive board would probably want to see the actual contract before, but allowing us to go ahead and allowing the executive board to do that. I just want to get this to a close. I think it's taking up too much time. It's taking up the effort of the group to try and get this done. And I'd like to make it so that we can do it. I would say that maybe authorizing them to spend up to $50,000 up to as an option. That would be my suggestion, but maybe somebody else would happen, and then have the final contract being authorized the executive board to okay the contract so that we can get this going as quickly as possible. Does anybody have a motion that they would like to make? That's just my suggestion.
I'm trying to write one up. It's Jean. So you want two things? One for Rob to be able to negotiate a contract and the executive board to finalize it?
That's one, and two is to give him clearance to keep moving ahead if it's 50,000 or less for the fit out.
Okay.
Did she make the motion?
Are you making that motion?
Yeah, I was trying to write it into the chat, but if Rob, if you have a motion articulated for the minutes, I would say so moved. It's a little, I'm trying to write it out because it seems a little cumbersome, and I just want to make sure we include everything.
I'll second that motion.
I can do it for you. I think that the motion would be that we authorize Rob to finalize a contract and give authority to the executive committee to review and okay the contract as soon as it's done. And as well as to authorize him that to go ahead with doing the contract as long as the fit out is $50,000 or less.
I'll make that motion. I'll second that. I'll second it.
All right. So we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? I'm hearing none. It's approved. I think that the second thing is Rob, why don't you go and hit the second thing quickly?
All right, so I'll try to be as quick as I possibly can. I have two other announcements after that, quick announcements after that. The second item is obviously we have a employee retirement package that's outlined in our personnel rules, essentially personnel manual here at NHCOG, which basically is very simple, and it was literally, the language reads similar to a money purchase plan with an NHCOG contribution of 6.5% of the employee's salary into this plan, with vesting immediately or not eligible 1 year after the date of initial employment. So that's been, you're vested 100% at that point in time. That was a plan that was here for I don't know how long, probably since the NHCOG was created from the ashes of the other ones, the other RPOs. The employees that were in that plan had separated from NHCOG through retirement or moving on. And apparently the plan was, even though we thought that it was there and was going to be available to us, was basically closed, I guess, because of lack of activity.
Yes.
So
They had an audit review on their end and they closed it because we didn't have enough employees.
right, and we weren't noticed that. And so anyway, ultimately what has happened since is that we have not had a plan. I was eligible, middle of June of 2022, almost a year ago. Sarah was eligible in November, I think, of 2022, just a little while ago. Our two other new employees are gonna be eligible in May. And, you know, we have no plan, so there's been no contribution, so, you know, we have taken some time to look at our options. We looked at defined benefit plans such as CBERS. And we've looked at other options, that are very typical and common, which are, you know, for public employees are 401(a)s and 457s. The 457s are essentially a plan that's available to an employee. It's basically offered by the employer. There's no requirement to participate. Sometimes there's an employer match to incentivize the participation in that plan. Typically at 3%, but not always. And the 401(a) is more of the employer plan where there's usually a contribution of some level, and it's anywhere from 5 to 10% that I've seen in the region. And then there can be an employee match as well too. Now, there isn't one technically in the books, or at least with the old plan, there wasn't one. You couldn't, as an employee, couldn't match with that defined or that money plan. So anyway, so looking at the options that are out there, Mission Square, which is formerly ICMA, has a 401(a) and a 457. These plans there's no cost to the organization to administer these plans. It's basically born out of the investment money that the employee either gets through the employer's contribution or the employee's contributions. So essentially where we're at now is that we need to do something, and there needs to probably be a catch-up payment for those who are eligible, who have not actually had any investment in the retirement plan as written. So, you know, I don't know what the policy board would like to do here, if you would like to just continue with the 6.5%, but allow the employee to contribute up to 6.5% and match through a 401(a). And whether you want to change that at all, or if you, and have a 457 option available to employees. And again, it's really just, I need an authorization in order from the board in order to essentially offer those two plans. So that's kind of in a nutshell. You know, I can answer any kind of question. I don't want to go belabor the point because we obviously don't have a lot of time today.
I would just I think that we have it in our, that it was 6.5%. I would recommend that we stay with that program on a 401(a) and with the employee being able to match that and establish a 457 if they want to put more money aside for future retirement. That would be my recommendation.
Motion, Henry, or just?
If we have a motion, and then we can discuss it. So why don't you want to make?
We'll make that motion that, do what you said, Henry.
Okay.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Is there any discussion? I mean, but I think that we've got to get this established. It's unfair not to have it. Couldn't have happened at a better time, and the market's been crashing for a year. So.
Yeah, Henry, if I could just add one thing I forgot to mention, and that's exactly a great segue into this, is that there's a catch-up payment, and we did it back at the envelope, quick 6.5% of salary based upon two different employees and their eligibility times. It's not going to exceed $8,000 to catch up. And as Henry said, the beauty is that was actually a good investment. Looking at the market was not investing. So
Right.
It's not like you're dealing with a lost, market rate return. So I don't know if you wanted to add that, if you want to, I don't know if you wanted to add.
Yeah, we would have to make that retroactive payment to cover the people that were penalized for not having an active plan. Is there any other comments from anybody? Have any questions about this? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any nays?
We got a thumbs up from Maggie
Yeah,
and Denise.
okay. And any abstentions? Okay, that motion passes. And then you have a couple more.
Yeah, just two quick announcements. The Municipality Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA compliance assessment has been mentioned a few times. This is literally responding to a survey that the DOT, and we could resend it around as well, but there are still 6 towns in our region that have responded. And I guess there is a chance for a penalty or at least a check mark in the wrong box, so to speak, for discretionary funding. I don't have to name the towns, but I mean, maybe it's helpful. One's Canaan, Goshen, Heartland, New Hartford, Norfolk, and Roxbury. Those are
And
the
this
6
is for
towns.
what? The,
It was a survey that was sent around. It's basically an ADA compliance audit of the town halls. I'm not sure exactly what this.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Could you send that survey again?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna.
Cause I have this lady, Katie, calling me from New Hampshire about ADA, and I'm like, honestly, it almost sounds like it's coming from India because it's in the broken English, and I can't even understand it. I'm like, you know what? I tell my aide.
Yeah, I don't think that was associated with it.
I'm gonna, yeah, I think so. It's like,
if you'll resend that survey, I'm sure that we will all complete it for.
Yeah, please.
Forthwith.
You're not the only ones. There are other towns in the state, but
When was that survey sent out?
multiple times in the last 6 months.
Okay, Burlington did respond?
Yeah, you're not on the list.
Okay.
Gold star.
Well, because I know we're doing we got an engineer to do a comprehensive ADA study, so, Scott must have addressed the, if we're not on the list. so.
Yeah, and this is simply a survey that can be completed by town staff, so, I don't imagine it would take. very
We have an
long.
ADA director. It may have gotten buried somewhere.
So what we'll do is we'll make sure we send this directly to the 6 towns. We'll put some, exclamation point on the email, whatever it may be. Like immediately today if we can, so that way it's in your inbox and take care of it. The only other announcement is you may remember from the last meeting, I was talking about the anticipation that we might be getting increased funding through the transportation, the unified planning work program, the planning funds from the DOT, and also potentially the regional service grant through OPM. And I can tell you that we are submitting, based upon the information we've been given, we are submitting a new 2-year UPWP incorporating that we're going to get, I think it's about $100,000 additional funding, which is the first time it's happened in well over 10 years, right? There's been no increase, and we were successful in working through that. So, we thank DOT for that, and that this is gonna be great for us that we can rely on, because it's basically formulaic funding. The RSG remains to be seen. We're working on that as well. We're hopeful that something will happen there too, but I can't emphasize enough that these 2 funding sources are really the meat and potatoes and allowing us to do more and potentially bring more resources to the table to do for the region. So, this is no increase to your annual dues. So, I mean, this is a win-win for all of us. So just want to make that announcement too. That's it. I took a long time.
Okay, yeah, we got a lot done in that short period. We have a presentation from Connie Manners and Paul Singer, Litchfield Hills Greenpoint Collaborative and the Houstonic Valley Association. So why don't we share our screens if necessary, or you have the table?
Hi, so I am Connie Manis from the Houstonic Valley Association, and actually my colleague Julia Rogers is here, not Paul Singer. Rob, we were pretty excited to see our colleagues working on the Conway project on the agenda, and actually spoke before the meeting to kind of coordinate on that. Now, it was always our inclination, actually seeing the agenda, that the students go first to present more of an overarching view. And I think it's really important that the students have an opportunity to present to you and that you have the opportunity to hear from them. So given that we've gotten a little behind in the agenda, what I would suggest, if possible, is that HVA's part of the presentation, HVA's item on the agenda today, get pushed off to the April meeting if you have room for it, so that we can really make sure that the students don't have to rush through.
They literally, they don't have enough time to complete. Is that what it is? We not going out of agenda order doesn't work either.
Well, I saw that you wanted to reserve 45 minutes for a discussion further on in your agenda, and I just can't imagine that, you know, the 40 minutes altogether that you allocated to the students and to our agenda item, that we'd be able to get it done in that time. So I think it might be best, and our presentation, there's no rush at this point. So it would be fine for you to hear that as a follow-up in April, if that works for you.
That's fine with us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess we're going to the next agenda item then. Which is the presentation of Amanda Branson, Northwest CT Land Conservancy, and Kara Gutwall, Sharon Geiger, and Sarah Torrenson, Conway School of Design students. Is that going to be put off too?
Nope,
Or is
we'd
that-
love to talk with you today.
Oh,
The students have their project is, the timing is perfect for engaging with you all today in terms of their timeline and the timeline of the report. So we're prepared to move ahead if you're all ready.
we are.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm Amanda Branson. I'm Director of Operations and Finance for Northwest Connecticut Land Conservancy. Some of you may be more familiar with our land trust under our previous name, which was Wiantanog Heritage Land Trust. We changed our name in June of 2020 upon merging with Naromi Land Trust, which was the land trust in Sherman. And NCLC is the largest land trust in the state of Connecticut. We protect over 13,000 acres throughout Litchfield County and northern Fairfield County. And that includes 21 public nature preserves and 48 working farms. In 2021, NCLC began another round of strategic planning. And as a part of that, we were looking at our region and our own work in comparison to state and federal conservation goals. And we knew a lot about what land in the region was already protected. We're really lucky to have tremendous mapping resources due in large part to HVA's work and the work of the COG. And so we knew a lot about where those lands were, but what we didn't know was the pace of conservation in the region, how quickly and at what sort of average rate are these land transactions taking place. And so at that time, we reached out to our partners and we had a really robust response. 19 of the 22 land trusts working in our region shared their transaction data with us. And we compiled that information into a report that's simply called The Pace and Scale of Conservation in Northwest Connecticut. That report is available on our website. We have sent a few hard copies to the COG, but if anyone is interested in receiving some hard copies, feel free to contact me directly. And so coming out of that report, we knew again how important the 30 by 30 goal is, which is the goal to protect 30% of the Earth's lands and waters by 2030 as a way of protecting against the effects of climate change and loss of biodiversity, among other reasons. And so we were looking at water companies' supply lands and their role in reaching a 30 by 30 goal. And we began working really closely with Save the Sound, who's the leader in the state on looking at these water companies' supply lands. And then we began working with the Conway School to draft a report to consider the feasibility of attaining a 30 by 30 goal and beyond. So as a part of that project, they will be looking at that feasibility and endeavoring to answer questions around why conservation at this scale in Northwest Connecticut is important to do now. And I'll add that we're really grateful to have the guidance and involvement of HVA, of the Nature Conservancy, and the Connecticut Land Conservation Council as a part of the project. And so, as I said, the students got to work in January. They've done a tremendous job of really diving into the available data. They've been engaging with the land trusts working in our region, and now with you as the COGs that work in our area. And they're working on their report, and they're ready to share some of their analysis with you. So I'll turn it over to the students.
Great, thanks, Amanda. We're going to share our screen here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sharing.
I can share.
All right. So, like Amanda said, our sort of entry point into this work is the 30 by 30 initiative in Northwest Connecticut. And this is just a quick overview of the project. We are the Conway team. My name is Sarah, and I'm here with Shane in my box and Carrie in a separate box on your Zoom screen. And we're up in Northampton, Massachusetts. We are working for the semester on the sort of answering the question of how can Northwest Connecticut contribute to this 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. And today we are right about here in the timeline, engaging with councils of government as really important partners in this work.
Yeah, and just to introduce the 30 by 30 project, in 2021, the Biden administration enacted an executive order to conserve 30% of America's lands and waters. This is part of the Global Deal for Nature, which is also part of the Paris Agreement, looking at conserving 30% of the world's lands and waters to protect biodiversity and mitigate climate change issues. And the national initiative looks a lot more at supporting outdoor recreation and increasing equitable access to the outdoors for everyone. And so we're looking at how that can be applied to this region.
Really doing the shuffle this morning. As part of this project, as we got our research going, we divided our kind of research categories and questions into 3 categories, which you can see here. So the first was permanent protection, which Amanda really highlighted in her introduction, assessing the current inventory of protected lands and understanding what the next steps are to transition more land over to permanent protection. The second, we're calling ecology. So this is trying to understand really ecologically valuable parcels in this region, identifying ecosystem gaps and building corridors to really maximize the ecological benefits of conservation. And then the third category is equity. So exploring the economic and social benefits of conservation at this scale and exploring how going forward conservation can be made more equitable. And then I'll just add that the second, or ecology and equity, are really laddering up from those 8 principles of 30 by 30 that Shane mentioned. We just wanted to kind of broaden that scope and use both of these avenues to pursue this work going forward. I'll also share one of our foundational analyses for the ecology portion of this project. So in yellow on the right side of your screen, you can see this is NCLC's service area, and we've worked to map significant natural communities, important bird habitats, and critical habitats for rare species, and then overlaid permanently protected parcels and quasi-protected parcels. So you can see kind of in the middle of the service area, a corridor really begins to emerge as an especially significant ecological zone. And this lines up with the work from the Nature Conservancy and the Berkshire Wildlife Linkage Project, as well as HVA, who you heard from at the beginning. They're working on a Follow the Forest initiative to build forest cores throughout the state and up into really the entire Housatonic watershed. So this kind of shows us that there's an opportunity to acquire more land adjacent to currently conserved parcels, really to focus in on that goal of protecting biodiversity as stated in 30 by 30, And then, of course, protecting these parcels to build climate resilience going forward and allowing for species migration.
Another big piece of analysis that we looked at the 2022 Integrated Water Quality Report, which mapped the 735 miles of rivers in NCLC's service area, and found that 24% of those were classified as impaired, usually from high amounts of bacteria. And so we overlaid those rivers with protected lands to see the riparian habitats that were falling in protected zones, because rivers have a regulated buffer, but those aren't permanently protected, as permits can allow for development and disturbance in those areas. And several factors such as impervious surfaces, erosion, fertilizer and pesticide runoff all impact water quality. And when a riparian zone is protected, that's going to decrease the likelihood of that river being impaired. And we found a lot of the large sections of impaired rivers did flow through unprotected zones. And so this kind of gave an opportunity, as we see, for protection and restoration of these riparian zones around these impaired rivers to improve water quality. And these restoration projects can create new jobs through local and national funding programs, and also possibly projects working with municipalities to incorporate green stormwater systems to catch and filter some of those pollutants, especially in more populated areas, can have a significant benefit. And that increasing the restoration and water quality will not only improve the ecology and the health benefits for people in this region, but also, of course, everywhere downstream.
So we're doing sort of an abridged presentation today, so we're not going to go through too many more analyses, but this is just sort of a high-level summary of some outcomes. They probably will not be a surprise. Like Amanda mentioned, some of those quasi-protected lands that are owned by water supply companies have emerged as critical for permanent protection. There's also a need to continue, as land trusts are doing, to prioritize those ecologically important areas. And then finally, we didn't touch on this too much in the analysis, but we've been looking at how working with historically marginalized populations, including environmental justice communities, throughout the process of conservation work is really important, and also ensuring that there's equal access to those conserved resources. But today we are here talking to folks here at the COG, really to understand how councils of governments and the municipalities that make up the membership are understanding sort of their role in conservation work, and how they're balancing conservation work as part of their larger regional work, and then also understanding development pressure. And then finally, how partnerships can enable not only more equitable conservation, but more conservation in general. So we'll end there, and we'd love to just open the floor if anyone has any comments or questions, really anything to contribute to the discussion.
Thank you very much. Are there questions that people would like to pose, or comments, or would it be possible to get a quick copy of this presentation? It might be.
Henry, if possible, I'd like to say something just quickly. I was very impressed with the students, and they approached us at the COG to talk to them about the questions that they actually just posed about development pressure and conservation, and how the COG plays a role. So I was able to have a really nice conversation with them about, I don't know, 3 weeks to a month ago, and thought they were quite impressive, and that led me to meet Amanda at NCLC. So, I want to thank the COG members for taking the time to listen to this, because we do feel like this is actually really important and valuable information as we work on our SEDS update. And then as we work toward, pretty soon, we're going to be updating our regional plan of conservation and development. So just to put it in a little context for why we brought the students today, it's
going through the POCD, which is the town's plan of conservation and development right now. And this is, what I think should be shared with our planning and zoning.
So Amanda and Sarah, Caroline and Shane, if you wouldn't mind sending, I know you have my email address and Rob, so if you wouldn't mind sending us the presentation, we would be happy to forward it on to the municipalities.
And big thanks, really well done slide deck and well organized presentation, which we always appreciate here at the COG.
Yeah, and just to mention too, like this is a very abbreviated presentation, but we are working on a final report that will be much more thorough, very in-depth, and can also kind of act as a guide for other regions and municipalities, COGs, looking to kind of also explore the possibilities of meeting this 30 by 30 goal. So that'll be by the end of April. And so that can also be something used and distributed.
If you don't, Rob Phillips, if you don't mind sharing that.
We're pretty sympathetic to this up in Salisbury, so I appreciate it and thank you. Trying to get to that goal. I think we're almost there, but so.
Yeah, we've got a similar situation in Washington. We're very close to that goal, but now, and I don't know if any consideration is given to this, we're at the point where we're trying to strike a balance between the conservation, land conservation, and affordable housing for young people. And I don't know if that becomes a component of what you folks are trying to do, but right now we currently work with our land trusts to partner in that and try and be aware of this really fine balance. But thank you for being here.
Can I make a quick comment on that? Because this comes around a lot, this question about conservation and development. And I just think we have strong interest in both up here. And I think the first thing you have to do is have the zoning, planning and zoning commissions enact regulations that increase the densities in certain areas, so that even if you have larger conservation areas, you can really ramp up the density in places where you want that kind of heavier development. So, but if you don't do that, it doesn't work. You have to have zoning regs that are more liberal in areas. I think that's what we're finding. And then the conflict kind of goes away.
If I can tie into that as well. I'm a little concerned with the conflicting goals as well. The state especially has been pushing hard to try and force local communities into their way of development. And I would hesitate for that recommendation that we look at forcing some areas to have higher densities, because I think the state may pick that up and try and push that on certain communities. You did say local planning and zoning, and I think that that's important, but I think a message has to be sent to the state too, that these goals are conflicting. To push affordable housing, and a couple of years ago, they tried to basically make zoning a statewide mandate. And those pressures aren't going away. I think that a component of this initiative, which I think is fantastic, is to also impress upon our legislators that they can't have a narrow view. If we want conservation for the goals that was mentioned, and we want affordable housing, those two can't be looked at in isolation. They have to be looked at together. And I think it's critically important that local communities retain their autonomy.
If this is something the board is interested in my previous COG, I know it was a more urban and suburban area, but in the Hartford area, but we did do zoning model regulations for sustainable development. And that was one of my whole areas of expertise. And we have models that can work for more rural, smaller towns to do just what Curtis was saying. And, I think sometimes one of the best ways to address what the state is trying to do to municipalities is to have the municipalities take the actions that they want to take, on their own. And so if anyone's interested in looking at models, I'm happy to provide those too. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Emily. I'll just add, I'm probably coming through Shane's box, but this is Caroline speaking. I think I just want to underscore that we're really sensitive to this concern of conservation and development, and that will be a component of our report. And I just wanted to say thank you for, enabling this discussion. And we really hope that this report can end up being a tool for you. I'll also drop our email in the chat. We have a team email, so if you would like to send any additional thoughts to us, we'd love to stay in touch over the next couple of weeks as we're writing this report.
Thank you. Municipal forum. That's something that we have neglected to do in the last several meetings due to time considerations. And then maybe we can just start going around and seeing if there are any comments that people would like to make having to do with their individual towns. So why don't we start with the alphabet?
Oh, do we have anything in alphabetical order? We can go through the minutes, if we grab the minutes, and just go down through this town. Don is not here today.
Don is happily skiing somewhere out west, I think, isn't it?
I don't know where you went.
I think.
Chairman Todd, you're.
Literally, I don't have a lot to comment about. We are getting Frontiers coming in, putting in, covering about 85% of our town. I think that there are 88 homes that aren't going to be reached by Frontier. And I don't think that the town is right now in a mindset to finance that ourselves. That's a big deal, though, getting increased connectivity in a town. That's one of the COG's main goals. I think Charlie is part of that, and part of Salisbury is also being covered because they're in our same telephone exchange. We're having a struggle with our budgets this year because of inflation. And we're checking with the OEM to find out what their penalty percentage will be this year. Because we are seeing some pressures on our budget this year, so we're working through that. And we're doing some increased development in the town, so we've got a lot of new businesses in our town, which has been very helpful to use our streetscaping, but we're just moving ahead. That's all for Falls Village.
Yeah, and I was just thinking while you were talking, maybe we'll just go through the room in person, and we'll go to the remote, and we can go around. I can literally call out names around my screen.
Tom, go ahead.
Okay, for Morris, speaking of budget, the Board of Selectmen proposed a municipal budget. It's down by $120,000 from last year, or current fiscal year. Our Region 6 budget is up $282,000. So overall, our budget will go up on the proposed budget about $162,000. We did have a reval recently, and our grand list is up 31%. We're entering into an agreement with Harlington to manage our animal control officer, which will be really nice for town of Morris. We have so few calls. It's really advantageous to us, financially and also for the coverage. Probably heard about in the news, we did pass an ordinance not to allow any more cannabis establishments in our town. We do have one approved cultivator currently in Morris, but moving forward, no other cannabis establishment, and that covers the entire gamut from retailers, micro cultivators and cultivators and transportation. And speaking of fiber, Altice is almost wrapping up their installation of fiber in the town of Morris, and we had a conversation with Frontier. They'll be coming in between March and May to cover our entire town to the homes with fiber. So it's, at least we'll have some competition, which is gonna be nice. That's it.
All right, for Goshen, it's budget season like everybody else. We're waiting for some insurance increases for the budget. This past Sunday, I was invited to a party. I spoke with Madam Secretary, Stephanie Thomas, about the early voting. I told her that, Goshen doesn't have any special location. We have Camp Koch that we use for voting, and it's used for recreation and other events, and to have recreation hold all their events and programs for 10 to 18 days would really hurt the recreational budget and plan. She says she's going to try to revise something to protect the small towns. It's to be seen, because our school and our town hall are connected. We can't have any voting there. Years ago, we used to have it in the gymnasium, but for 10 to 18 days, telling the kids to, stop school for 10 days or 18 days is ridiculous. So hopefully she comes up with a plan that'll serve the small towns and protect us, because, it costs Goshen between $8,000 and $10,000 per election, and presidential elections around 12 to 14,000. Over 10 days or 18 days to be a lot of money. And we have to figure out it's budget season. If this gets passed, we have to put 18 days into our budget time, $10,000. You know what I mean? So and I spoke to her about early voting. I said, early voting, I says, we have absentee ballots. I says, so why can't people just get the absentee ballots and then have the one day for voting? And she was big concerned about having the polls open between 6 and 8 in the morning and 4 and 8 in the afternoon in a secure location. I says, we don't have a police department. We don't have security officers to guard a building. So hopefully that she does something for the small towns like what we have. On early voting, because this is a cost of fortune for staffing. So
make you whole.
huh?
The state will make you whole.
Yeah. They're gonna pay for the first couple of years, and you fall in our lap.
Good luck on that one.
Yeah. Chris Leone's gonna be presenting the school budget to us this month. We did pass our flag policy, so we're town-owned properties. So the only flags to be hanging on our poles on town properties is the United States flag, state flag, and the POW flag. I met with Leo last week and a group of concerned citizens about social services in town. At this point, I honestly think we don't need one because we don't get the call volume. But we might develop a small human services for town, part-time position. And I don't know how many towns that are here on Zoom or in the room here have a human services or social services, and what you're paying your employees, how many hours a week. I'd like to send me an email with your thoughts on that. And our brand new roadside mower finally came in. Our John Deere came in after a year and a half. It's finally got delivered, and I'll tell you, it's a hell of a machine. Yeah, I didn't realize a 6 Series was that big of a tractor. It's unbelievable. So, okay, man. So that's about it from Goshen, but hopefully we hear from the Secretary of State, and hopefully they have a plan for small towns, because it's going to increase our budget like crazy.
We had to increase our budget by $8,000 just in case.
Yeah.
And this is horrible. horrible idea.
Yeah. And last, our grant list went up 28%. So. Wow. Yeah.
Ours did too.
Yeah.
Same.
Is that do you
And there's
typically,
42 new homes being built in town. It's
do you typically see swings like that? That's a large percentage.
well, the rebound. So the rebound came through and everything went up because of the sales. I mean, everybody's moving to the ocean and Morris. And we ought to kids go to Morris because, you know, our school count is down, you know, so. All right.
All right. Town of North Canaan, on that same note, our grant list went up 26% for the town of North Canaan, which was fantastic for our reval. We're looking at trying to drop our mill rate down from 31 to get it down into the 20s again. I have a budget presentation on March 22nd. We're still putting all numbers together with Region 1 and all Region 1's gonna do in our school budget yet. So that's, you know, our goal is to get it down at least a couple of our mill rate. It's tough, you know, like everybody says, you know, everything has gone up, you know, our MER has gone up, utilities has gone up, you know, everything is just unbelievable. On that same note, we get a new restaurant in town, the Berkshire Country Cafe, closed up there a couple years ago. A new person came along and is gonna be opening it back up. I don't know if they're that same name, starting next month. I'm going to have breakfasts and lunches and possibly suppers and maybe Sunday brunches in the same location, so which is gonna be good for us. We had a groundbreaking ceremony for the Community Health Wellness is coming to the town of North Canaan. Construction is starting very soon. The ground has been leveled, groundbreaking, and you know, it's a $3 million investment, and which we needed up in the northwest corner. On the social service worker, she's been a godsend for the town. She works 20 hours a week. She can't work anymore because she's retired from this stage. We could probably have her full time. When she's there, it's nonstop. People coming in left and right looking for aid for, you know, every source, everything, water, everything, you know, for power, to fuel oil, to everything. So she's been very busy. She's doing a super job. I know Leo was up with her last week. We got a new computer system. We used some of the ARPA funds to upgrade our computer systems. We upgraded our phone systems that we wanted to do in the last 3 years, but with money, but we bit the bullet and used that money to do it, and it's been working fantastic on that part. I did solve our chicken issue that we were talking about last month, that people put up a fence, which was fantastic. My animal control officer took care of that little detail, and I stayed out of the lamplight, but just caught the devil when everybody complained, but you know, but they did put up a fence, so which is great. At least they're not on 44 getting run over and causing an accident and everything. So, you know, I can't say how much our budget is going to be up. I know our fire company came and wants a big increase from the years that when I was in. So I'll present it and see what the Board of Finance has to say, you know, so it's gonna be an interesting March 22nd budget presentation and then see what happens after that. But, you know, like I say, we're putting increases in left and right, and, you know, if we can drop the mill a couple or more, it'll be fantastic for the town, you know. So we had to up it last year because of the education budget, and the preliminary for the high school, I think ours is like 250 some thousand just there, but we don't know what the school budget is gonna be yet. So keep our fingers crossed and keep plugging. So there's some good and bad, but yeah, the social is very, very, very great for us, you know, because our town, we have a lot of, you know, elderly people and low income, and, you know, so she's been securing grants from different organizations, and she's done a super job. She comes in stressed every few minutes to talk to me. I said, don't worry, Sherry, we'll get through it. We had a very stressful day yesterday, but we got through it. So it's been working out great. She's been super. You know, if you need some people, we'll send them down so you can have yours, you know. We can relocate them to Goshen or something, you know. We have a bus, we can put them on the bus and ship them down to you.
We have affordable housing right in.
There you go.
They could live right down there.
There you go, perfect. We'll promote that. We'll give them transportation to get them out of Dodge.
Town of Burlington, you know, similar issues that everyone else has. Our revaluation will hit next year. Don't know how the housing market is gonna hold up through that. I guess the one thing, we have a good problem, and I don't know if anybody here can give us, if they've been in a similar situation. We've got a lot of grants, connectivity, trip, state, federal, a lot of grants for road construction, and the COG has been fantastic in helping us in that vein. We have the money set aside for our portion of the construction. But we're coming up with a issue with the amount of money we're gonna have to front for the construction and until we get reimbursed. So typically, I've only been here a year and a few months. What I've seen, what we've seen is that the construction costs are paid by the town. Everything is submitted through our grant administrator after everything is done, and then the town gets reimbursed. I've talked with our town council, and I'm gonna bring it up to the boards that we may dip into surplus or transfer to bridge that situation. But I don't know if there are opportunities in the grants to get progress payments or some kind of payments as you go. Especially I think the one with the NHCOG is a $2.4 million project. And it's very lucrative for us, but to fund the construction costs that for that bridge period is a bit of a challenge. So.
Just on that side, what we've done is in our town is we've just gone to the bank and gotten a bridge loan. It's expensive, but there's so many sacrosanct things hiding in our balance sheet that we can't touch. That kind of makes it difficult. We usually have all the money available to do it, but it's just easier sometimes just to go to a bank and say, please.
Yeah.
I think our last bridge we did, we were reimbursed, it's through a steep grant, we were reimbursed on a regular basis. Just submitting the amounts to the DOT, and obviously there's some delay, but we did get our funds on a regular basis, so we weren't out the full, $1 million or whatever it was.
That was the same with our last bridge too. We probably got bits and pieces where we submit the bills, we get paid.
So I intend to talk with our grant administrator in Cardinal. We have Cardinal as and they do a pretty good job. So I want to attack it through a lot of different angles, including we have a good relationship with the bank, but if we can avoid the bank, love to. But like I said, we've got about 10 million in the queue now, 3 million our cost. So that's a good problem to have, but just need to make sure that when the bills come in for the road construction, we can pay it. Okay.
Yeah, there was last year when the steep grants came out, Goshen wasn't awarded that $500,000 like the other towns because we weren't shovel ready. And this Cardinal Engineering was working on all our bridges and I spoke with Maria Horn about it this past Sunday, and she said that she was gonna look into it. It's like, I can't believe that every town in the northwest corner was shovel ready and Goshen wasn't. Everybody got awarded a grant. And not now this year, West Iredale is gonna probably cost us $8 to $1 million to fix the bridge over at West Iredale, and then we have the culvert pipe up on North Goshen Road that's gonna cost over $500,000. I can't believe a culvert pipe's gonna cost us much, but everything has to be engineered by state regs. And we didn't get any of this money because we weren't shovel ready. It's like ridiculous. Like,
The bridge was very few projects got it. Bridge program.
Yeah. So. Thanks.
All right.
So we'll move over to the remote side of the coin. I'm gonna go in order of what I see on my screen. So the first person I see here is Norfolk.
Hi, everyone. Our issue with our gas bill still goes on. We have a lot of work to do to still clean up. We have a couple of major areas that are still affected that they're going to take some time. We had a meeting the other evening. Unfortunately, people from the DEP and the Department of Health weren't available to be there to answer questions, which was a little disconcerting. But we'll get through it. As in Falls Village, and some of the other towns, we are working with Frontier right now. We had a meeting with them yesterday they gave us a price for a number of homes. There's a number of homes they haven't or haven't decided if they're going to do. And we have to go over those to see what areas in town are most affected so we can come up with the funds for that. Our bridge work continues. We finished one bridge, which I'm currently in the process of doing the paperwork and the grant agreement with the DOT to get reimbursed. We have another bridge. One bridge was the local bridge project through the DOT, of which you have to wait until the end to get all of your monies reimbursed. We did use a bridge loan. We worked with Salisbury Bank on that at a very, very good rate, which we're going to be closing that out. So then we pay the balance that's owed. The other bridge is through the federal bridge program, of which I believe Tom had mentioned that. That's the one where you actually get reimbursed as you go. It's a little slow sometimes, but it eventually will come in. We have another bridge that we're working on that actually we took advantage of the DOT's program to do all the design and engineering work. They're currently doing their test bores and all their surveying. And once they get the design done, they'll take the reins to go out and work with us to find the construction companies for the bids. And that bridge is going to be paid for 100% through the federal program. And it's not an 80-20 split like our other one, which is great news for us. We have our solar project at our transfer station. It's a 5-megawatt solar project that we're breaking ground on as we speak. Hopefully that will, it's gone through the siting council. It's been approved by the town. Hopefully that will be finished by the end of the summer. We have a major road work that we're doing that we did get a steep grant, $500,000 steep grant for, and it was shovel ready before we pursued it. We had it ready to go for probably a year. And as soon as they came out with the steep grant program, we took advantage of it and got that. We just had a new oil tank installed at our school, which took quite some time because of availability of components because of the COVID pandemic. But the tank is in. We're just waiting now for a break in the school year to take the old tank out and hook the new tank up. So other than that, as everyone else, we're doing our budget. The one thing that we've talked about as a group in the past few meetings is having an assessor program that would operate out of the COG. And I still think that's something we need to look at. As everyone knows, assessors are very difficult to find. We happen to have one now that we have an assessor that comes in who's Goshen's assessor 1 day a week. And we have an assessor from Salisbury that comes in on a very part-time basis to assist us in site work. And then we have an assistant. But it would be good for the COG to start looking at some of these programs where we can share individuals. But other than that, yeah, things are going well.
Thanks, Matt. Next on my screen is Roxbury.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Okay, so the social services director position, we have it's a part-time position here. I did want to touch on the local bridge program because that is, something that we had out I am waiting like 8 months now with no replenishment. But a good note, if you're working on your budget, we did find out from our accounting firm that you can put a pending credit from the state because it's guaranteed funds, and that may help your capital plan a little bit. Feel free to reach out if you need to. And then we have a federal bridge program. It's a $5 million bridge that's going to be over Weller's Bridge. They have actually assigned, so we don't have to put out all the money, how much of a reserve. So for us, it's like 1.3, which definitely helps the budget to go from 5 million to 1.3 just on those. I had two other things. The second round of opioid settlement. I was on that call yesterday, and I know that in order to qualify, we have to submit a plan. So it's, if we're gonna, I'd like to use it as the cog to work together to develop one plan so we can get the most money. I know we had kind of touched on it last meeting, but I'd like to kind of keep that conversation going as information comes out, if you guys all agree. And then my other concern is, and I know Don Stein was also on the meeting. We went to that training at the state police for post training, which is the police officer standardized training, which is pretty extensive. There's different levels over the next 3 years, and I'm just a little concerned about us being able to do that. I have assigned one of our part-time officers as our training manager or assessment manager, so we could start looking at it and hopefully get ahead with that. I do not want to lose my certification for my police officers. And I think that's about it that I had.
Thanks, Patrick. What we got here? Cornwall.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I think there's a lot of commonality in our issues. And again, great to see the fiber being installed by Altice. And I think Frontier is coming soon for discussions on that. So again, that's been a big regional priority that seems like it's coming together much better and faster than we had thought at one point. Again, budgets are tough. Charlie, we've taken some of the heat off North Canaan, and we actually, our high school numbers went up, so we're up 400,000 this year. And so everything else, there's pressure on everything. I think with an inflationary time, there's more pressure on local budgets than we've seen in the past. I think there's also more pressure on social services than there was before the pandemic. We have seen increased opioid problems, domestic issues, psychological issues, the whole range of social services is really key to many people that are struggling with heating bills, electric bills are going up. It's a key component, I think, of what local towns do for people. And we do have a couple of initiatives locally for businesses, bringing some more businesses online, and some housing initiatives for people. And thanks for our tour. I'm not sure I plugged this already, but we've applied for a compost grant, and we had a great tour of the facility in Litchfield. Thank you, Denise, and your crew there for showing us around. And we have applied to the state for our own food scrap compost facility at our transfer station, which we hope to get going by Earth Day, which is the end of April. We've been appointed a application concierge from the state, which is more service than I was expecting. So we have a meeting with her coming up next week, and we hope to get that going. But again, once again, it's great to have the resources, support, and innovation here at the local level, and sharing all that innovation really, I think, is key over and over again. So thank you all.
Thank you, Gordon. Litchfield.
Hello, everybody. We have a couple things here in Litchfield. We did get a steep grant, which we're using on Campbell Road, which was shovel ready, just so you know, Todd. We also had a few projects in the hopper that we hadn't pulled the trigger for funding yet. We are working on our budget. The selectmen's budget looks at about 1.5%, which is pretty good, but unfortunately the school budget looks like it's gone up over 6%, which translates into a 1.1 million increase. And the driver on that was a 23% increase for them on health insurance. We are waiting still for the hotel to close at the courthouse. We anticipate that will be done in this coming week. That will be a big project, adding 20 rooms to the center of town. We did consolidate our Park and Rec and our social services into Park and Rec Human Services Department. We originally had a full-time Park and Rec coordinator and a part-time person. I had a full-time coordinator in social services, but now I'm gonna have 3 under one umbrella, which they can all help each other. So we have the person who is the actual coordinator, which is 40 hours a week, and which was an employee that already existed that we promoted. And then we have lots of applications received for the other 2 positions. So we'll be starting interviews as of the week of the 20th of March. Our EDC just launched our first restaurant week. That's starting March 24th to March 31st. And Channel 3 just came out to do a story on that. So we're excited to get the word out for that. We did pass an ordinance in town that now moves the tipping fees over to the businesses, nonprofits, schools that currently all the tip fee is paid in our residential property taxes. But now we hope that 54% of the garbage that's being produced is these non-residential entities, some which do not pay taxes. So we've removed about half of our tipping fee costs out of our budget. So that's obviously helping our budget. But that will start July 1st of 2023. Frontier and Optimum are unrolling right now fiber in our town, and they're almost done actually. And we did not receive the Safe Streets for All grant. So we have a meeting set up with the Connecticut DOT for a debrief to find out what we can do in the future to be in a more favorable position. And I agree with the assessor program. What is happening, like for us in Litchfield, we are borrowing really the Middlebury assessor 1 day a week with a part-time assistant. But what's happening is other towns that are larger that can afford to pay more are taking the assessors, which is what happened in Litchfield, that already exists. So we're competing for the same pool of people, and we just can't compete financially, with these other larger towns. So I think having an assessor program that, and from what I understand, a very low percentage of assessors pass the test as well, and they only offer the test once a year. And you have to have 3 years experience to work in an assessor's office to even sit for the test. So I think there can be some changes of those requirements that you'll still have a great assessor, but getting more people on into the role will be important. And just lastly, with our food waste diversion, like Gordon had said, we're doing a really great job, I think, in Litchfield, and we've unrolled it to our schools. Our high school right now is part of the program, and we're pulling out about 7 to 9 5-gallon buckets a week of food waste that's brought to our recycling center. Something we do want to work with them is they're also using compostable trays, which we're also capturing, but I would prefer they use items that are reusable. So it's a slow move to get the schools on board with that, but I'm going to keep on trying. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks, Denise. Salisbury.
Unmute. Hi, everybody. We're good. Our budget is up pretty high. I've got 3 new employees proposed, a land use assistant, because that office has gone just really wild. Somebody who's going to work in recreation and the senior program. We've already hired them, and an clerical assistant for our treasurer. So, but our goal on the budget, which we're presenting tonight, is going to be a level mill rate, not increase the mill rate. So I think we're going to do that. We have 80, I just added it up. We have over 80 proposed units of affordable housing on acreage that the town owns. So this goes to what I was talking about earlier. We've got some high density in the village centers that are allowable by new zoning regs. doing a POCD, trying to do a lot more with composting, and we're at the point where we have to take it off site because we have about 400 people who are doing kitchen waste composting, and we'd like to get more and more of that going. And I think that's about it. We're all good. We're just busy. That's all. Doing a bridge, finishing that up. Got a lot of sidewalk work. I'm going to be hoping to get some support for a TRIP grant in April to connect Salisbury and Lakeville villages with a sidewalk. We've got a lot of it done. We have about 2,500 feet left. So that's going to be shovel ready by April 1st, I think. That's it. For Salisbury.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Washington.
Morning, everyone. All's good here. Similar challenges that everyone else is facing. We're in the budget season. We saw our reval won't kick in until next fiscal year. So we saw a 3% bump in the grant list, which was quickly offset by the increase in the regional school budget. So our goal is to keep the mill rate flat, 14.25. We had hopes of actually reducing it this year, but it just didn't come to pass. Social services, we have a lady that does 15 hours a week, up from 4 2 years ago, and she just does a phenomenal job. Incredible need. A lot of our senior residents. Right now, we were in a 7-town region for Medic Intercept, and New Milford decided this year to pull out. So that left Patrick, Gene, Greg, myself in a bit of a pickle. We're now a 6-town region, so we're going to see a serious increase there in Medic Intercept services. Last year, we raised funds privately and were able to purchase a 6,500 square foot office building, which is now in the design phase to be renovated to be our new ambulance headquarters. We should have conceptual drawings and cost estimates by the end of the month. Just a lot going on. Things are all good here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Winchester Winstead.
Hi, everybody. We've got a bunch going on right now. Difficult budget this year. We just had our revaluation, which is going to help us drop our mill rate significantly. And it's my hope that residents of the town see that as a very positive thing. On the other hand, we're going to see enough in increased requests, especially from the school system, that any individual person is likely going to see a pretty significant bump in the amount that they're paying in taxes, despite the mill rate drop. So we expect it'll probably drop to somewhere between 26.5 to 27.5 from 33.54, with our grand list now just above $1 billion. Beyond that, we have an RFP out for Medic Intercept services in Winchester with 6 other towns, not just in Connecticut, but also one over the border in Massachusetts. That's currently Trinity Medic 6 that provides that Medic Intercept service here, based out of Winstead. And I know that there will at least be a couple of businesses that are going to compete for that. And those RFP responses are due very soon. I'm curious to see how that goes with inflation being what it is. Regarding shared services, a few people have noted different things. First, we do have currently a full-time grant-funded social service position. That's Katie Vale, who operates out of our town hall 35 hours a week. She's paid around $70,000 a year as a salaried employee. And we are currently looking to try and step that into our budget on a gradual basis so that it becomes a fully funded, town operating budget position. We are also posting today for a certified assessor to try and hire a full-time certified assessor. And we have an interest in not just those areas, but also in building official services, really anything that folks have in mind. If there's an interest in trying to get towns together and find efficiencies, whether it's through the COG or whether it's just mutual, shared service agreements. I've seen, especially building official services, work very well on a regional basis before when I was in Bolton across the state. I've seen it work well. I think we can make some of these efficiencies happen here. And right now we are looking to hire an assessor. So now is a really good time for us, whether it's in that area, social services or building official services, to connect with some of you. So please reach out. We have 120 acres that's going on the market imminently for sale and development that the town owns. We are trying to conduct a full salary and benefits survey. I know that the COG has some of that information. I think we're looking for something that's a little bit deeper, and I've already contacted some of your offices, not everybody, to try and get some of that info. So if you were contacted by me sometime last week, I appreciate your attention and your time on that. We have many grant applications going out the door, and we are bonding right now for the first time in 20 years for a number of road projects and wrapping up the Hinsdale Elementary School reconstruction project, which we thought was going to cost over 10 million on the town's dime, and we've gotten down to 4.1 by working with the state on a few areas. So that's really it out of Winchester. But again, please reach out if you have an interest in shared services in those areas, because I think that we could find some significant cost savings between several towns.
Yeah, Josh, when we had our strategic planning survey last spring, that certainly came out is we need to look into it closer. So I've been taking notes of all this from the discussion today as well. We'll have to revisit this sooner than later. My question though is, it was when you were in Bolton and you had those shared services, was that NHCOG or is that CROG or was that an intermunicipal agreement?
It was an intermunicipal agreement. Bolton was basically call it the resident town for a building official, a full-time building official and a full-time assistant building official that both had fire marshal certifications as well. So they offered full building official and fire marshal services to 4 other towns. So 5 total in the consortium. It was not regulated or maintained by a council of governments. It was just each town signed a contract with Bolton, and Bolton offered out the services as needed and hired new staff on and managed all of that on behalf of the other 4 towns.
Okay, because I know that NHCOG, our kind of sister rural COG, they do have some, I believe, assessment and building official services, but it's not the entire region. It's, I think, a group of participating towns, but something we'll be bouncing ideas off with John Filchak over there. So thank you.
You got it.
Who's next here? Am I missing? Oh, Gene, over there in Kent. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm all discombobulated. We're working on multiple grants. Working on a trip grant. We have our phase 2 of our sidewalk project is starting. We're in the design engineer phase. And Gordon, you mentioned you're assigned a grant concierge. We have one for this second phase for the TAP money. And I have to tell you, it's been the greatest thing. He's been holding our hand the whole way through, has made a lot of the sort of pieces and parts of the early deliverables on the grant much easier, and really takes a lot of that like boots on the ground kind of pain in the neck stuff off of our plates, and sends us templates and says, here, just do a find and replace with the town of Kent and it's good to go. And so I think you'll be happy about that. We have a new playground going in this summer at Kent Commons. The playground there is over 20 years old, so it was in need of an upgrade, and it's a big upgrade, so that's exciting. Our grand list was up about 2%. We're heading into a reval year. We have a meeting with Frontier next week on the same thing. Our social services director went from a heavy part-time to a full-time when the recent social services director left, and it has been just a win-win for us. And Todd, I can send you some info and job descriptions. We're part of HRRA, so Jen Heaton Jones has put together a large grant for unit-based pricing and an organic scraps grant pilot program for all of the towns. So we're just waiting to hear back on that. It's looking very positive, but hopefully it'll come in the next month or so. And Conservation Commission is working on a pitching a land acquisition fund concept to our Board of Selectmen. They're sort of giving us a history and then giving us other towns' models, and then they'll pitch it to us for an ordinance change. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Jean. I think I have Heartland now. Maggie?
Morning to you all. We're working to finish our budget. It's due next week. School looks pretty good. Ours is interesting, but I'm hoping that we'll stay flat. We're also very concerned here and upset about the early voting costs and how it's going to affect our budget. The state hasn't decided how they're going to go forward, but the best case scenario is 10 days, including weekends. Some of those days are 12-hour days. We have a really small staff, and I'm really worried about them getting burnt out. They're also including referendums at this point. Sometimes we get a maximum of 50 people to vote in our referendums. So the cost to our town is kind of ridiculous in that respect. We don't know when they're going to finally decide, but it's at least an $8,000 plus increase for the best scenario of 10 days right now. So it's hard to schedule, what I'm going to put in the budget. The other problem we're worrying about is the dead trees and the removal. The ash trees and such. So far this budget year, we've spent over $80,000, and that's a drop in the bucket going forward. No advice, no help from the state, and it's literally crushing us. One word for the towns that are working with Frontier. We had them come through a little bit over a year ago. They just left some locations undone. No explanation, no date to complete, which is kind of hard to explain when you have the residents calling and complaining. So just something to think about. We're also working together to put a request for a TRIP grant for a huge drainage project. So I'm really hopeful and grateful about that. Other than that, Heartland's getting our winter now with snow, a lot of snow. So that's kind of a surprise. I had my sights set on spring and a nice little comfort of not spending all my snow budget, slowly dissipating. But other than that, all is well here in Heartland. Thank you.
Thanks, Maggie. Maybe spring will start after Wednesday, right? After the next storm.
I sure hope so. Thanks.
And then last but not least, I think is Warren and Greg.
Good morning. Thank you. Happy March, everyone. I'm going to be real short and sweet, as most everything I would have has already been covered. That's the benefit of going last, I suppose. We continue to make headway on our affordable housing, meeting regularly and coming up with new concepts and new plans. So I'm looking forward to having something definitive on that in the near future. Fiber and broadband, we continue to navigate that web. We have 3 players now in Warren, and just waiting for all 3 of them to roll out. Altice, like some of our neighbors, has been already pulling fiber through town. So that's good to see. Our bridge project is moving along with the state for town hall, something that we'd love to get done here in the future. Working on the budget like everybody else. We seem to be in a very good position going forward. I keep looking for Tom and his checkbook, and hopefully I'll catch up with him soon for the school budget. Medic program, I think Pat, Jean, and Jim already covered that. We're getting closer to having something finalized before June 30th. And that's really it. Looking forward to spring up here and less of the heavy winds. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Hey, Rob, it's Jean. Sorry, I missed the budget piece. Our budget is looking at about a 7% increase, which may and will likely may cause a mill rate, but we'll see when it gets to Board of Finance. We haven't heard from BOE yet. And the from the CCM Legislative Committee meeting this morning, I guess as an introduction for Mike, that early voting bill, the intention is to have it operationalized for the 2023 municipals. Yeah. That's that. Mike, you were on that call. They were.
Mike's not here, actually.
Yeah, they were very clear on that the intent is that they want it as a practice for the 2024 national.
Oh.
So anybody who thought they were done with their budget might want to go back and look at that bill, because it may cause us to all buy a vault as well.
Mike, Chris had a death in the family, so he is not available. So we'll go right to you, Emily.
Okay, I think I got it off mute. Yeah, so thank you, and I apologize for being remote. I think our children will probably make it through kindergarten and daycare, but there's a question mark around whether my husband and I will actually. So anyway, I did not want to share any petri dish germs with you all today, so I've been under the weather. But I can give my report. So we had an EDC Executive Committee meeting on the 22nd of February, which was a good and important meeting. As you all know, we're trying to move forward with the update of our SEDS, our economic development strategy. And we had some about $15,000, you may all remember, that was added to the budget of our grant for this year that was from the COG coffers. And the executive committee voted to break that up evenly in thirds. So we'll be spending $5,000 of that money on some updated data for the SED, so that we can have that by the time we're doing our stakeholder meetings. So we know kind of what we're talking about and the lay of the land in the region in terms of economic data and demographic data and that sort of thing. $5,000, the second $5,000 will be spent on updating and reviving the Litchfield, Discover Litchfield Hills branding platform, which is a website and social media. So we will be doing that now here in the next couple months. And then the final third $5,000 chunk is going to be used to retain a facilitator for doing our big stakeholder meeting that we're going to have in the spring here on the SEDS. We don't have a date for that yet, but we are hoping when we get the facilitator contracted that we will have that date very shortly. The second piece I wanted to share with you is that I did attend the economic development conference. It was for small businesses in Torrington, and there was a gentleman that came from Goldman Sachs small business program. Really, really good program. If anybody is interested, he was a great motivational speaker, and there were many small businesses in the room, but he was also offering that there's some coursework that can be applied for by small businesses to go and actually have a full intensive course on building up your small business. So if anybody's interested in that information, we can pass that along. And that was done by Torrington and Winchester. It was a really good effort. I actually had the chance to, and I know I've done this in North Canaan. Charlie, I know I came and spoke, or was on Zoom and spoke with your EDC, your Economic Development Committee. I also had the opportunity this last month to speak with a couple of members of the Salisbury EDC, which was a really great conversation. And I would just, as the new person doing the economic development work for the region, I would love the opportunity to do that in more towns. So if any of your economic development commissions are willing or interested to talk to me, I mean, I'd love to talk to any of them, especially as we're moving forward with the SEDS update, because we'll want all of their participation. So, if you're able to bring that message back to them, I'd be happy to talk to them about what we're working on at the region and just anything that we can help with here. So just thought I would mention that. I'm not sure if any of you are aware of these energy efficiency conservation block grants, or if anybody has taken use of those in the past. That's federal funding. I recall, helping one of the communities in the Capital Region getting one of these. Right now, it looks as though these grants are actually more for larger towns and counties, and councils of government can apply for these grants, but they have to be in partnership with some smaller communities. So these grants are very broad. They do focus on energy efficiency. I know some of your communities have energy task forces, but they're broad in that they would be for projects for communities that want to deal with energy efficiency as it relates to sustainability as a whole. So even projects like, you know, in the realm of transportation, you know, making it such that, you know, there's more walkability, you know, things of that nature. I can send out some information on this, but right now there's funding available. And one community member in the town, I believe it was Kent, Jean, I don't know if you're still on the phone, but Wendy, and I'm going to forget her last name right now, but I spoke with her. Murphy, yes, I spoke with her this week. She's, you know, quite an advocate for energy efficiency, but I was speaking with her about these energy block grants, and you know, she was saying that, you know, I know communities are struggling with their energy bills and whatnot, but she was talking about wanting at the COG to have someone who was like an energy czar. And, you know, I know that lots of different, you know, advocacy groups and folks, you know, could benefit from having someone, you know, one person in the region that could help out. But I thought of these energy efficiency block grants, and I didn't know, you know, if this would be something that would be of interest to any other communities, because it sounds like, you know, and, you know, again, like, you know, someone to be able to answer questions about, you know, solar installation, or navigate the state rebate programs, or, you know, navigate federal funding, or, you know, anything that relates to sustainable or renewable energy sources, things like that. So I don't know if other communities are interested. These block grants exist. COGS could apply, but would have to apply with other municipalities or other partners. So I just wanted to bring that up. And if there's interest, you know, please let me know if that's something.
Hey, Emily,
Yep.
Kent would be very interested in
Okay.
talking. And that that whole concept of an energy czar, I think is such a great idea, because there's so much out there between EV charging and all of the energy efficiencies and the change in the landscape of how we can heat our homes, how we can, you know, save energy. And our town doesn't have the bandwidth or the human resources to assign that very large topic to someone. Thank goodness we have Wendy Murphy, but I wonder I wonder if that block grant could pay for a something similar to Leo, a navigator.
I think it could. Yeah, I think it could. I think it could. But however, I just did learn this morning in a back and forth with the person at the federal level that a COG can't apply on its own. And sadly, the only town in our region that can apply on its own is Torrington, because it's big enough. So so it would have to be a little bit of a partnership. So if there, you know, that's how I could envision it going. If there are other towns that are interested, we could try. I think that we have to apply by July, but there has to be a letter of intent by the end of April. So just, you know, keep that in mind. We can talk more about it, but please email me if, like Kent, you are interested. And we can talk more, Jean. So I think that's really it. I just I did write quite a few letters, or actually 4 letters of support for the Deep Trails grants. So Torrington, New Hartford, Harwinton, and Litchfield, good luck with your grants applications. And I think that's it for now.
Thank you. Casey?
I have just 4 items on, just really quick. In your agenda packet under attachment A, we have the 2023 equipment list with the rental rates that the Public Works and Equipment Collaborative had agreed upon for the 10% increase for the upcoming year. They all agreed upon it unanimously at their February 2nd meeting. Also, to the Sue Grossman Greenway extension, has been identified as a candidate for the TA program, which the board had presented a resolution to the department back in September. There is an increase, and the city of Torrington has stated that they are committed to the increase and 20% match increase as well. So I'm going to be looking to the policy board to approve that moving forward with a resolution for Selectman Karati to sign. stating that the Northwest Hills has reaffirmed the approval of the city of Torrington Susan Brisbane Greenway extension, increased cost estimate, and confirms that the city of Torrington has secured the additional local matching funds, and the project remains as a priority project for the Connecticut Department of Transportation TA program.
And Mayor Carbone actually had to leave the meeting for another meeting, but she did say, thank you very much for your support. So
Okay.
she's,
So do we have to act on that?
yeah, I mean, on the agenda, I have it for action items for both of those as well, but I think there's a third one too. I don't know if you want to continue through and then we can address them all, or do you want to go one at a time? Or
Why don't we address them all at once?
And then also two, in your agenda package and attachment B are just two tip amendments. Well, the first one is for the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program Administration and Assessment, and the second is the Transportation Demand Management Program, also known as CT Rides. Basically, the National Electronic Vehicle Program is set with creating a national charging network, and the conduct had hired a consultant to oversee the implementation. And the second amendment is for the CT Rides program, which is basically a program that Condot works with the contractors to market and educate and provide outreach to employers to provide support for carpools and van pools and things of that nature. But in turn then result in, reduced employee work trips, decreasing traffic congestion and energy consumption as well. So those are the two voting items at this point.
Great, yes.
And then the last, I was just gonna give an update on the trips program. So if you wanted to take motion to endorse the two amendments as well as the resolution.
Yeah,
TA program.
I would move all three.
Second.
And then just real briefly, the trips.
Oh, we have to vote on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't second, I'm sorry.
We have a second?
Yeah.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay.
Sorry, jumping down there. And I just wanted to quickly, for the sake of time, just to kind of give an overview of the trips program. We have about 5 applications that have recently come in, and we have 4 that are actually pending and showing interest. And right now, to date, there's about 8.3 million in total projects of the 5 that have been submitted. So, and the deadline is the end of March 31st. And hopefully we will have them reviewed and prioritized so that we can present to the policy board next meeting in April.
And again, the state was looking for a total of how many projects, 10, and a total amount, but the total amount wasn't really clear.
Total amount was there. I mean,
So we're in good shape.
Are we looking for letters of support for these applications at all from the COG, or is that just a?
it's basically, we're able to put forth 10 applications. That's already been established within the guidelines, but I think it's a matter if we go over 10, then the projects will have to be prioritized, and then that's when we return to the policy board to help rank them.
Right, we don't necessarily need it's a program this, intended for a region like ours, local, small municipalities.
So we put forth 10, we have 8 already and 4 pending. So we will be looking at the policy.
Yes.
And it's due by the 31st of March.
So about 3 weeks. But it's good. It's actually great that we have this critical mass coming forward because this is a brand new program and we want to be able to fulfill what the DOT was allocated to us so that we can get this thing off and ground and running and sustainable and moving forward. So it's excellent news.
John Fields. He's next. John,
Good morning, everyone. I'll go really quick. And so just a couple of things. We're trying to close out some grants. Been working with Rob and Sarah on Homeland Security. It seems like we're meeting way too often, but nothing against them guys, that's for sure. But trying to close out some grants. Demis is still working on some vacant positions. Matter of fact, we're doing interviews today. We have an anthrax, the public health folks are doing an anthrax tabletop on March 21st. We have our regional training program that we're hoping to develop a strategic training plan for the region. That's going to be on the 22nd and 23rd of this month. We're in the process of doing a few school tabletop exercises, Newtown, Bethel, And then also some assessments. So we'll continue to work with the schools on that. We do have a meeting coming up. The state of Connecticut actually has a meeting. Region 5 already utilizes Crisis Track on a regular basis. State of Connecticut is looking to possibly go in that direction at some point, now that they're owned by the same company that owns Web EOC, and they're going to get those two programs to work together at some point. We have a flood workshop that the Army Corps of Engineers will be doing with DEEP and with Demis on 6/21. Thank you to Jean and her group up in Kent. We were able to get the Kent School Auditorium. And so we'll have more information on that coming forth. And then the CCM DPH Demis Symposium is April 25th. Hopefully you can all attend that. But that's all I have, sir, pending any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Administrative items. Can we take these as two, the approval of the minutes and the approval of the financial statements? Do I have a motion for those?
So move. Second.
Okay. All those, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, no abstentions, is approved. I do note that we have some Eversource people here. If you want to just say a quick word.
Thank you, everyone. Real quick, I believe our president of electric operations, Steve Sullivan, has begun reaching out to the COG directors about coming to one of your monthly meetings, just to give, a high level update of all things Eversource, from his purview, from his perspective. As of late, things have been quiet and you guys have been really kind to us, but, if you have any hardball, curveball questions, feel free to, come prepared. When he comes to those meetings, and we'll be sure to send you all the outreach and notification about when he'll be coming. Tim has some information regarding our annual emergency response planning meeting with each municipality, so I can give you those dates for that.
So good morning, everyone. Nice to see you again. So as Dan mentioned, we do have our annual emergency response planning meeting coming up. It's going to be virtual this year. I believe it was probably virtual last year, and many of you may have already participated in years past. We do have dates, and you'll be getting a formal invite from myself or Daniel, depending on your town. We hope to get those out probably the next 2 weeks or so. But if you want to mark it down for your calendars now, we're having one option on May 3rd at 10 a.m. And the other option is May 4th at 6 p.m. So it's two options in the morning and the evening, whichever's easier for your calendar. And we're certainly encouraging your towns to participate in those, whether it's yourself, your EMD, DPW, whoever makes sense for your town to participate in those. But like I said, we'll get a formal invite out in the next couple of weeks. But that's certainly something we're planning on, looking forward to. And it's going to be some good information from our public safety folks, our operations guys, and some, good information going forward. As Dan mentioned, knock on wood's been pretty quiet. We've had some weather events over the past couple of weekends. Looks like some more snow coming this weekend. But we'll keep up communication and certainly reach out to any of us if you have any questions or concerns going forward. So.
And I'll just add to that I actually was at an Economic Development Commission breakfast recently in Farmington, where I live, and actually you both were there too as well too. And when we do have the opportunity to schedule Steve Sullivan, I think it'd be fantastic. I mean, his presentation was great. The background and the understanding of how the grid works, why we're dealing with what we're dealing with, and there was a lot of detail in that. That was just, it was really enlightening. And I think that'd be great. And I think that starting with that message with our group would be fantastic. So we'll get them on as soon as we can.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Rob, just one, I'm sorry, Henry. I just on the Eversource piece that I wanted to mention that at the last Region 5 REPT meeting, we voted to send a letter to Eversource to request that they engage with the Region 5 towns in some exercises on the Make Safe protocol. And so that letter was sent, I think, last week, Rob, right? Last week or so.
Oh. Yeah.
I can send it to you. Hey, Rob, if you can hear us, we have lost all audio from your end.
Emily, can you hear us?
Ah, there it is.
Oh, I think we're done now anyway, though, right?
Motion
We have a
adjourned.
motion.
Motion adjourned, was it?
Missed the best part. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, thanks, everybody that joined online.